So guys, I had a question from my newest Patreon, Cooper, who asked, what is the differences between the four main ideologies in HOI4? Today we're going to annex that question. See what I did there? Anyway, I want to thank my Patreons for their support, as without them and the support of the people on this channel, this video would not be possible. With all that being said, let's get on to the video. One other slight thing I did forget to mention really quick is I went into the game files and found the codes with all the ideology information on them, and some of these are a bit older, but it seems like this just for the democracies and it's a little bit about puppets. So most of this information should be up to date as of the Waking the Tiger or August in 2018. So this should be up to date information around this time. Okay, so now let's get this ideology train a-rolling. First, communism. So what is communism in the first place? Well, here's an idea, and it's pretty much a joke that'll give you an idea of what it is. Two men are sitting in a jail cell in Siberia. The first one asks, how long you been in here? The other one said, 15 years. And the guy said, wow, what did you do? The guy said, nothing. First guy said, oh, come on, you only get 10 years if you did nothing. And that's communism. The main things you get with communism is pretty much, it's kind of odd. Communism's kind of a weird thing. It seems like communism is more meant on HOI4 to help generate communism growth in other nations, is what it's feeling like it's mostly for. Now, the main benefits and, I guess, pros and cons or whatever, I'm going to have on the screen. But the first one, whenever you declare war on a nation, it's 25% lower world tension cause than normal. It also impacts the joining faction tension also. Whenever you join a faction, it's 50% less compared to another nation joining a faction. It would go 50% higher. Next, you can impose your own ideology on other nations. From what I understand in the game's code, this means that in a peace deal, you can change the government without actually puppeting the nation. At least that's what I think it is. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I gather off of that. And then you can send volunteers, you can puppet other nations in peace deals, you can occupy territory owned by neutral countries, and puppet cost is negative 30%. So it costs negative 30% to actually puppet somebody. Now, something really quick here, it's going to be very easy to explain. With that whole thing about you can occupy territory owned by a neutral country, here's what that means, okay? It took me a long time to wrap my head around what that really meant. But here's the idea, okay? Say, for example, France has fallen, right? And the United Kingdom, or no, I'm not going to use them as an example. Okay, we're going to use Russia here since they're obviously communist. The best example is, say, Turkey here was, by themselves. They were in their own faction. They were doing their own thing or whatever, okay? And as Germany, I decided to invade them, okay? And I took all of their land, but Russia's at war with me, okay? And because this nation is pretty much just neutral, I guess, to Russia, what would happen is whenever they start attacking me, they would occupy the land. And what I mean by this is instead of the land going back to just being Turkey, it would go to Russia, okay? That is the best way I've been able to explain it. And you know what? Actually, I'm going to go ahead and show you an example really quick. All right, so here's what I was trying to explain. See, as a democratic nation, you're not actually allowed to occupy territory owned by, other nations like that. Now, communist nations can, and this is what this does. Normally, a democracy would just begin liberating the land. Now, in this case, as you can see, instead, it's going back to me, Russia. And then once the war is over, that's when the land is finally returned. But otherwise, until that point, I continue to keep the land. So that is probably one of, in my opinion, the biggest deals of having Russia, because if you're going up against something like Germany or something like that, you pretty much get all of the factories in the meantime up until the point of the war actually ending. So again, that's what this pretty much means. It just means that you can take over land that's been invaded by your enemy. So that's pretty much what that is. Next, we have democracy. What is democracy? Democratic nations are very, very, very heavily restricted compared to normal nations that have pretty much no restrictions like Russia, Germany, Italy, and all those people who were under the fascism or communism ideology. The main things with the United States is they can't declare war on democratic nations without having a war goal, so this means you have to pretty much get a goal through a focus, because another thing is you can't justify on somebody until they've generated world tension and world tension's at 100%, or you go through a focus tree on a mod or something, which then, I think this somewhere, nope. I thought the US had something which would allow you to do it earlier. I could be wrong. I think it is limited intervention, but pretty much normally you can't declare war on a nation until it's either 100% world tension or you got a war goal on them. So other than that, there's really no way to do that. The next things they can do, or cannot do, is they cannot impose their ideologies on other countries. I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what this does. If anyone does, go down there in the comment section below and tell us. I am not entirely sure off the top of my head what this would be. Next, they cannot puppet a country in the peace conference. And this is what I was talking about. I feel like that's kind of odd. I don't feel like that's accurate, because I have seen the United States do that in many occasions in Road to 56 and even just vanilla multiplayer. Next, they cannot occupy territory owned by other neutral countries, or even countries in their own faction. That's what I was talking about earlier, that the whole thing with Russia and all that stuff, how they could invade the land that the enemy has captured and not have to worry about, losing it or anything like that, and it just goes to them instead of going back to that nation until the war's over. The United States and other democracies cannot do that. They cannot justify war goals on countries that have not generated world tension. They can send volunteers later on. They can guarantee countries with other ideologies. They lower the world tension with guarantees, which, if you don't know, it's literally, let me find a nation here really quick. Okay, let me just guarantee the independence of France. See, world tension's at 85, so if I were to guarantee France, it goes down to 83. That's what that does. I also have a couple things turned on now, just so I can do this video a little bit easier. But the next thing is, whenever you annex, there's actually two numbers in here in this file I'm looking at right now that don't really make sense to me. It says take state's cost plus 25%, and then annex cost is plus 50%. So I think what that means is just taking an individual kind of state by itself is 25%, but to annex the whole thing is 50% higher, which doesn't really make sense to me. And then probably the biggest thing in my opinion is the trade opinion modifier, which is plus 50%. What this means is if a nation is trading resources and basically loses it, like say for example, if we're trading here with British Malaya and they go to war with the United Kingdom to try to lose their whatever. If the UK invaded over here and took their main part of their resources, but they still had this part and we were trading with them, if we had the most trade opinion, then they would cancel the deals with everyone else except for the nation that has the most trade opinion. Now see, with fascism, there's one thing in here that I want to bring up right now. I don't know if this is accurate or something old or what, and I think I have a slight idea of what this is. It says that fascist nations get a 7% increase in manpower than normal. So I've looked over here at Nationalist Spain, Republican Spain. I feel like that is possible because it does say that Nationalist Spain has almost twice the manpower. Well, like about almost half, you get the idea. But when I went over their focus, I noticed down here it says militarism, which gives a recruitable pop of 5%, and then the recruitable pop of 2% for their focus. And I think that's where the 7% comes from. But if someone else has tested this, please go down in the comments below and let me know if you do get a base 7% for being fascist or what. But now on to the things that I know for a fact. The first one is whenever you're at war with a major power, if you're a fascist nation, it's like negative 80% of the time to declare war on another nation, any other nation. Now, most people might have a hard time understanding what I'm talking about, but normally it takes about 200 to 240 days to declare war on a major or a puppet. Now, here's an example. If we were to go to war now, it takes 50 days. So it's negative 80% of the time for us to do this since we're at war with a major, and it's kind of weird. Sometimes this one's 35 days, and if you start clicking all these, it's more time. Oh, and a tip for you guys. I'll go over this later about peace deals. But for people who didn't know, what happens when you select multiple states, once a peace deal fires off, you get these states cheaper. That's what this is. I'll cover that in a video later for everyone else that doesn't watch this. But this is what this does. If you select multiple states, in the peace deal, they're, I think, 50% cheaper for you to get with the war power or the war score. So keep that in mind, everybody. If you're declaring war, it might take a little longer. But if you're going to be at war while you're in a faction, you can do that and get a lot of land a little bit cheaper. Excuse me. Next one, again, I don't understand what this means. It cannot force the government of another country to accept the same ideology. Man, where's that coming from? Excuse me. So I'm not entirely sure what the forced government of another country of the same ideology means. I don't entirely understand. I thought for a minute it might mean boosting, but you can do this. I thought it might mean stage coup, but you can still do this. So that's something I'm not entirely sure on. Next, you can send volunteers. You can puppet countries in a peace deal. You can occupy territory owned by neutral countries, kind of like the Russians with communism. Now, fascist countries are not limited to world tension. What does that mean? Earlier when I was saying the United States had like 100% to declare war and stuff like that, that is a tension limit. A tension limit is up here. See, the world, the percent under it, that is the tension limit currently in the game, and that is based on, what all is going on in the world. So since it's at 44%, if there was a tension limit of like 20% send volunteers, we could do that, or if it's 50%, we can't. So I'll give you an idea on that one. Now, for the very, very last one, we have non-aligned countries. What is a non-aligned country, you might ask? Well, as you can see, we're Romania. Non-aligned and they're going communist. A non-aligned country is basically one nation that has no idea what they're doing one day and the next day decide to do something else. That's one way I've always put it. I don't really think that's exactly what it is, but I just feel like they're not really lined up with democracies or anything, and they're kind of like a little bit of everything. So it's kind of weird. Now, non-aligned countries are really surprising. They have a lot of really, really good stuff. So first off, they get a negative 75% to world tension for declaring war on somebody. Okay. Let me just tag Russia here really quick and have tag Soviets. Don't get me Stalin. So we're just gonna click on let's just say Sweden here. Killing me, man. 5 political power. So we're gonna go ahead here and just do that to get world tension up. Go back to Romania. Okay, there we go. Now it's Romania. As you can see, it would cause 75% less tension to the world by going to war. Okay, that's basically what I was trying to say. It goes down 75% from the normal penalties of going to war with somebody. So if we were going to go to war with Hungary, say for example, as you can see, it would only increase world tension by like 7. Now, if we were Germany here, instead of 7% for the same places, we pretty much cut it in half with Romania, as you can tell. So that is one major thing that I think is really beneficial to non-aligned nations, which is very surprising. The next one is the impact of joining factions with the world tension. The tension is dropped 90%. So you can pretty much join a nation, 90% world tension lower or something like that. It's kind of weird. I don't entirely understand what it means. I think what it just means, personally, is it just is 90% less world tension than normal when joining another nation's faction. That's what I think that is. It's kind of hard to explain, but I think that's what it is. Again, it cannot impose its ideology on our countries, which that's one of those things I don't know about. I'm not entirely sure what that is. It cannot send volunteers. Something interesting. I never realized that. But apparently they cannot send volunteers. Next, it can't boost or support the ideology. Again, it's really surprising that you can't boost or stage a coup of someone who is non-aligned. And even non-aligned nations, you can't stage a coup in them or anything like. Even if a nation has partially, I was trying to find one over here. Here we go. Oh, you can stage a coup if they have a little bit of non-aligned power. Oh no, you can't. So again, you can't boost them non-aligned. You can't stage a coup of non-aligned. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know why that is. But another big thing too, their ideology drift defense is negative 30% than normal. What does that mean? That means if somebody starts boosting you fascist or something like that, basically you have 30% less defense than normal where, say for example, to get to 100% fascist, if Germany would boost the United States, it would take a year. For you, it would take 70% of a year instead of that, because you lose 30%. Now, for their tension limits, to guarantee independence, it has to be 40%. It has to be 40% of the world tension limit. So that's one thing that's quite interesting, actually. Can we skip a day? Nope. I was going to see if Russia would cancel their war goal so we could do it, but whatever. Guarantee independence has to be 40% for the tension limit. They can send volunteers, actually, and their tension limit has to be 40%, which really doesn't make sense to me why we still can't do it. It says that you can do it at 40%, though, on the notepad here. They can join a faction at 40%. They can justify a war goal at 50%. They can declare war on a nation if they have a war goal at 25%. And they can send a lend-lease once world tension is 40%. Now, guys, hopefully this video has helped you out understanding the ideologies. I didn't know that much about it before I started going in the game and looking. I'm going to be honest. I had no idea it was this in-depth. But it seems to me the United States and other democracies kind of get the short end of the stick. It seems the only reason you want to stay a democracy is kind of for roleplay purposes. But, you know, or that whole supply issue I was talking about. To me, it seems the better ideologies is fascism and communism and HOI4. Just because fascism and communists can kind of occupy each other's lands and not have to worry about all that kind of crazy nonsense. You know, you get the idea. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this HOI4 video. And if you did, please don't forget to leave a like and a comment down below and subscribe. It helps my channel more than you could possibly imagine. Thank you. I will see you guys next time. Stay awesome.